How does local search work? Well, I'm going to try to break that down in today's video. In reality, local search is very complicated, but it can also be very simple. For most businesses, whenever you do any kind of search that has a local intent, most searches are going to look like this. Now, this is not an absolute. There's going to be differences based on industry, based on competitiveness, but as a general rule of thumb, Google search results are broken down into 3 distinct categories, and really think of them as ecosystems. First, we have Google Ads. Google Ads is where any business with $1 can basically buy traffic on any given keyword at any time. Most of you are probably doing Google Ads. The thing about Google Ads is that it only reaches about 20% of all searches. Most consumers don't click on ads, or they have ad blockers installed. The thing you need to really understand fundamentally about Google Ads is that it has a limited impact because of the fact that only about 20% of all total search traffic ends up clicking an ad. That leaves the other 80% for organic results. And so in most local search results, the first thing that comes up is an ad. It either is going to be in a list on google.com, and if you're on Google Maps, you might see 1 or 2 businesses with a sponsored label on it. And on Maps, you may even see businesses that have a square pin instead of a circle pin, and that's how you know it's an ad. Also, you'll know because if you click it, it says sponsored. So ads is usually the first thing that you'll see in a local search result. But like I mentioned, only about 20% of all clicks are going to go to ads. If you scroll down the search results page or you go past the ads on Maps, the next thing you're going to likely see are Google business profiles. You might see this listed as places. Some people refer to this as the local pack or the 3-pack because usually there's only about 3 businesses in the top. If you're on your phone though, or you're on Google Maps on desktop, there's more than 3 results on the map at any given time. But ultimately, that's the second thing that you're going to see. And most research suggests that about 70% of all traffic are going to click on the first organic result. So we've got about 20% of all the traffic going to Google Ads. Then most of the traffic, the majority of search traffic, is actually going to click on one of those first 3 business profiles in those local pack and in those places results. And this is why at Map Labs, we focus so heavily on Google business profiles, because it's really, truly the most impactful and productive way to get your business to the top of search results. And so that's really what happens in most, call it 90% of local searches, is that map is gonna show up as the second search result on a google.com search. And if you go right to Google Maps on your phone and you open up the Google Maps app, that's all you see are essentially business profiles. Business profiles are really the center of local search because that's where Google has really designated for local businesses to thrive. Anybody can buy ads. So if you're in a competitive industry, like let's say you're in tourism, and you're a hotel, you're competing against Booking.com, TripAdvisor, Expedia, all these online travel agencies. But those online travel agencies can't buy ads in the maps and in the local results. The same thing is true if you're a restaurant, if you're a dentist, if you're a lawyer. Any other website can basically be competing with you in ads, but on the map, it's a special place designed for local businesses. And so that's really the second thing that you're gonna see in a local search result after the ads. The last thing that you'll probably see in a local search result today is if you scroll past the ads, past the map, then you're gonna start seeing web results. I think of these as the SEO channel or the SEO ecosystem. So where we had ads and Google Ads as the first component, with the second component being Google business profiles and map results. The third piece of local search are web results, and this is where your SEO efforts are going to really come to light. The problem with this is that as we're talking about this, and if you're going and simulating this or doing this in your daily life, you're going to realize that it's the last thing that people see. And since 20% of search traffic goes to the ads, 70% of search traffic goes to the top through organic results, which in this case is the map, that leaves a very small amount of traffic to go to your website and the web results. And this is why SEO is such a difficult thing to succeed in today, is simply because Google doesn't really put websites organically at the top of search in local search anymore. They put business profiles there instead. And what you may notice, depending on your industry, is that it's not even local websites. If you're a restaurant, forget about your website ranking #1, especially for high competitive keywords. Maybe if you're in a small town or in a rural area or some really obscure keyword, your website's going to rank highly if you're in the restaurant industry. But if you're in a competitive market like New York City, Philadelphia, Miami, wherever, anywhere that there's more than 100,000 people, you're going to see TripAdvisor, Yelp, Eater, local blogs, local news articles. Those are the things that are going to really rank in those results. And so your website by itself is going to probably at best show up at the bottom of the first page, meaning that nobody's going to see it. Now, in other industries, maybe in a service area business, maybe if you're a dumpster rental company, maybe if you're a dentist or a lawyer, you're still going to maybe have some of those competitive directories like in hospitality, but maybe less so. And so your website might actually get to the top of those results. But again, you're still going upstream with that reality that most people don't make it to the bottom or even the middle, frankly, of a search result page. And so right now, that's the playing field for local search. We've got ads, which are very expensive and only reach about 20% of searches, but are very effective because, frankly, they get you to the top of search. But it's pay for play. If you stop doing ads, you stop getting the results. So it's not a bad investment. It's just a difficult one to continue with, especially depending on your budget and the type of business you're in. Then we have the places and the local pack and the business profiles, which is the highest impact, lowest cost thing that you could possibly do for your business. And it's the place, again, that Google really has dedicated for local businesses to succeed in. Then we have the web results, the most difficult place to get to your business to rank in because you have a lot of competitiveness with other authority sites depending on your industry, and because not as much traffic actually makes it there anymore. In between all of this, you may even see today an AI result or an overview or Google questions. And so these search results is no absolute, but that's the general pattern that most local searches find. And the big final piece here to think about is that a lot of people have actually switched from going to google.com to going right to Google Maps on their phone and the smartphone application. And in those scenarios, all you have are ads and business profiles. And again, this is one of the fundamental reasons why Map Labs were so focused on business profiles on Google and on Apple, because that's the new homepage for your business. That's the place that people are actually going to interact with you and make that first impression and likely make that purchase decision in microseconds. Think about the last time that you purchased or you went to go find or discover a local business. How quick did you move to go to their website? You probably read their reviews, looked at their pictures, read their menu, looked at their services. If you could book an appointment, maybe you looked at availability. Recent research has shown us that 60% of all Google searches result in a zero click, meaning that they don't leave Google. They click on your listing, they make their decision, or they go to the next profile and make their decision. So more than half of Google searches never leave the search results. So there's a lot of things that come into play in terms of who ranks number one, who gets the most engagement, how do you track that success. If you sit down at the dinner table or in your next meeting, ask your family or your colleagues to pull up their phone and have everybody do the same search. Everybody search for restaurants near me or restaurants in my town, in your town. And what you're gonna find is that almost all of you, even in the same room, get a different search result. So how rankings work is a whole different topic, but what you should fundamentally understand is that the playing field and the game that you're playing, you need to understand how those three areas work together and how they're different from each other. Ads, business listings, and business profiles and SEO are not the same thing. You need to treat each of those areas of search differently, and you need to approach them with different strategies and budgets accordingly, because you will get different results and you will get different impact from each of those three areas. So that's in a nutshell how local search works. On a separate video I'll do later, we'll talk a little bit more about how Google determines who's number one and how rankings truly work in the background. If you want to understand your business's performance on maps better and more comprehensively, check out maplabs.com. We have the number one software and services for Google and Apple Maps. We are a specialized company helping businesses to get the most leverage out of those two channels.